There are two branches of your nervous system influencing your heart right now. One can help accelerate it, the other can slow it. One participates in the body's response to challenge. The other plays a major role in rest, digestion, and recovery. And your blood pressure is being regulated inside a body where both systems are continuously interacting. You do not consciously control either one. You do not wake up and instruct your heart how many times to beat. You do not calculate the vascular resistance required to maintain blood flow to your organs. You do not tell your blood pressure when to rise or when to fall. And yet, the regulation happens, second after second, minute after minute, for your entire life. The system responsible is called the autonomic nervous system. And if you want to understand why stress can reach the heart, why the vessels can change their tone, and why blood pressure can remain elevated outside an obvious emergency, you need to understand its two major branches. The autonomic nervous system has a name that most people have heard, but few have understood. Autonomic means automatic, self-governing, operating without conscious direction. You do not decide to digest your food. You do not decide to dilate your pupils in darkness. You do not decide to increase your heart rate when you stand up quickly. The autonomic nervous system regulates these functions automatically. And for the cardiovascular story we are following, two major branches matter most: the sympathetic and the parasympathetic. These two names are precise descriptions of what each branch does to the body when it is active. The sympathetic nervous system is the branch of activation. When it is recruited, when it receives the signal that a threat is present, that the body needs to act, that survival is the priority, a sequence begins. Sympathetic signals move rapidly through the body. Noradrenaline acts at target tissues. The adrenal glands release stress hormones, including adrenaline, into the bloodstream. The heart rate increases. The force of each heartbeat strengthens. The blood vessels supplying the muscles widen to increase blood flow to the legs and arms. The blood vessels supplying the digestive system narrow because digestion can wait when survival is the priority. The airways widen. Breathing may become faster. The body prepares to move more oxygen to the tissues that need it. Glucose is released from the liver into the bloodstream, instant fuel for the muscles. Sweating begins to cool the body that is about to exert itself. The pupils widen to take in more visual information about the threat and its location. Pain sensitivity decreases so that an injury sustained in the moment of survival does not stop the body from completing what survival requires. All of this happens in less time than it takes to read this sentence. The sympathetic nervous system is the most efficient emergency response system the natural world has ever produced. Millions of years of evolutionary refinement compressed into a cascade that can mobilize the body rapidly, powerfully, and without conscious instruction. The parasympathetic nervous system is its counterpart. Where the sympathetic system activates, the parasympathetic restores. When the sympathetic system has done its work, when the threat has passed, when the running or the fighting is complete, the parasympathetic branch takes over. It slows the heart rate. It supports the shift toward recovery and restoration. As sympathetic drive recedes, vascular resistance can change. and the cardiovascular system moves away from the emergency response. Blood flow returns toward the functions that were deprioritized during acute stress. Digestion resumes, recovery begins. It is sometimes called the rest and digest system, in direct contrast to the sympathetic systems, fight or flight, and the name is accurate. Many of the processes associated with rest, digestion, energy conservation, and restoration are supported when the body is no longer dominated by an acute emergency response, not during constant alarm. In the physiological space, that becomes available when the demand for immediate action recedes. Now, the balance. In the life the human body was designed for, a life of intermittent physical challenge, followed by genuine rest, these two branches operate in a rhythm. Threat arrives, sympathetic activates. The response happens, the threat passes, parasympathetic takes over, the body restores, activation, resolution, restoration. This rhythm is what the nervous system was built for, and in that rhythm, blood pressure rises when needed and returns to baseline when the need has passed. Heart rate elevates for the exertion and slows for the recovery. The whole system breathes in and out, up and down, activated and restored in the rhythm that produces health as its natural output. Here is what happens when the rhythm breaks, when the pressures in a man's life keep recruiting the sympathetic system before it has had the chance to stand down. The bank balance, that does not improve. The relationship, that does not repair. The career, that does not progress. The life, that does not yet match. The life the man knows he is capable of living. The nervous system can respond to all of these as stress, and when that response is recruited often enough, the stress chemistry of one event clears, but another signal arrives, another pressure, another unresolved problem, and the system is recruited again before recovery has become the dominant state. Again, and again, and again, and the parasympathetic system, which was supposed to take over when the threat passed, waits, day after day, week after week, month after month. It waits for the signal that the emergency is over, the signal that does not come. Because the modern threat does not have an end. It does not resolve. It does not produce a moment of clear, physical resolution, the moment the body needs to move from activation back into recovery. And when this pattern repeats often enough, sympathetic activation can become a more persistent feature of the man's physiology. In some men, resting heart rate may remain higher. Vascular tone may remain altered. The cardiovascular system may spend more time operating under increased sympathetic influence. Not in every man, not through one mechanism alone, but as one part of a much larger physiological picture. And when repeated sympathetic activation becomes part of a man's long-term physiology alongside genetics, age, kidney function, metabolic health, sleep, diet, and vascular change, it can become one of the forces helping to maintain a higher blood pressure. Over time, the vessels themselves can remodel. Vascular resistance can change. The heart can be asked to work against a greater load. A temporary response has entered a much more complicated, long-term system. There is another element to this picture that matters enormously for everything this series will examine. You cannot directly command the autonomic nervous system. You cannot simply tell your heart to slow by 10 beats per minute. You cannot consciously order your vascular resistance to fall. The system is automatic, but automatic does not mean completely beyond influence, because some voluntary actions, the way you breathe, the way you move, the way you sleep, and the conditions you repeatedly create around recovery can interact with the systems that regulate autonomic activity. And one of the most important pathways in that story is the vagus nerve. The vagus is a major pathway of the parasympathetic nervous system. It carries signals between the brain and organs throughout the chest and abdomen, including the heart. You cannot command the vagus nerve like a switch, but research into breathing, autonomic regulation, heart rate variability, and vagal activity has shown us something important. The conditions in which the autonomic nervous system operates are not fixed. Patterns can change. Regulation can change. The body's capacity to move between activation and recovery can be influenced. Chapter 7 of this series is dedicated entirely to the vagus nerve. What it is, what it actually does, what the evidence supports, and what the internet has dramatically exaggerated. But understand this now: you are not a passive observer of every input your nervous system receives. You can change the conditions, you can change repeated behaviors, you can work with the systems that influence autonomic regulation, not by overriding your biology, by understanding it and working with it. The nervous system is not simply something that happens to you, it is a system whose inputs you can learn to influence. Chapter 3. The stress that never ends takes the architecture described in this chapter and shows exactly how modern life keeps recruiting the sympathetic system, and why the man who understands this sees his daily environment completely differently than the man who does not. This is the silent current. Chapter 2. Complete. Your body has been trying to tell you something. It is time to listen.